Hey, welcome to the Black Knight Nation podcast. Your host, Sal Internado here. The Black Knight Nation podcast is sponsored by Higher Echelon. Higher Echelon is a company run by Joe Ross. Joe Ross is a former Army fullback, former Army assistant coach, former Army officer, and a guest on the Black Knight Nation podcast. Um, just had Barrett Scruggs, former Army linebacker, on the podcast on Friday morning. If check that one out. If you go to our YouTube channel, please hit the subscribe button and check out our podcast with Barrett Scruggs. Pretty good stories about Barrett at West Point, how he got to West Point, and life after West Point. And today we're going to talk Army basketball. I don't know if we've ever talked Army basketball on the Black Knight Nation podcast, but here with Brendan in Jersey, we're gonna Brendan, it was certainly the topic of the week for Army sports this week. The lacrosse teams are doing well. Men's lacrosse, women's lacrosse are doing well. They're ranked teams, right? But then you hear on Wednesday, Jeff Goodman has a report that Jimmy Allen's out after 7 years as men's basketball coach, and so that's pretty much was the news of the week. You know, I don't know. First, welcome you back, and kind of get maybe kind of just your general thoughts about what happened earlier this week with Jimmy Allen, and we can get into some other details that I might have. So.
Yeah. Well, first of all, let me just double click on what you said about the lacrosse teams, because especially the women's team. I just want to say this out loud. The women's team went from a club team to a nationally ranked Division I team within 8 years, which is an incredible achievement. So just wanted to throw that out there. But yeah, I mean, in terms of the news regarding Jimmy Allen, I was certainly surprised. From what I know, he was a stand-up guy, and there's certainly a lot of people out there who are in his corner who feel like he got a raw deal. I don't know any of the details of why he was let go, or I mean, we can quibble over firing or not contract renewal, but the point is he's out, and at least for the short term, that's had some ripple effects with a couple of very talented freshmen, including the Patriot League Rookie of the Year, declaring themselves that they're going into the transfer portal. So in the short term, there's certainly reason to think that this maybe was not a good move, but just because a player goes into the transfer portal does not mean that they will ultimately leave. It's not a guarantee. I mean, we saw a bunch of football players, I think, heading into last season, declared for the transfer portal, and I think all those kids ended up staying at the academy. And certainly, we don't know. I mean, if a new coach comes in and achieves the goals that that Mike Buddy as athletic director is setting for the program, then ultimately it will look like a good move long term. But there's a lot of story left to be written at this point.
Yeah, no doubt. And it comes as a little bit of a surprise to me, like yeah, they made it to the Patriot League semifinals. I think the game was played on Saturday or Sunday. It was played last weekend, right? So, a couple days later, you hear that Jimmy Allen's not coming back, and you look at all the talent that they had coming back, right? I mean, they have everybody coming back but Chris Mann, who was a senior starter. You have Jalen Rucker, who's a first team Patriot League guard. You have Ethan Roberts, who was, like you said, the Patriot League Rookie of the Year. You have Colton Benson, who led the team in three-point shooting. 72 threes as a freshman is pretty darn good. I wanted to check if it was the Army freshman record. I'm not sure if it is with this, this era of basketball, the way it's played. But, I mean, that's still a fantastic season. Probably should have been first team Patriot League all-rookie selection. They have Charlie Peterson, who started, since his freshman year inside. I mean, they're going to have a good team coming back. And you just kind of think that Jimmy would have got one more year, would have got one more year with that team. And it didn't happen. And, the surprise to me is that, and then you hear, let's be, I want to be clear first. I follow Army men's basketball, right? I did go to the Army Navy game this year at West Point. That was the first Army Navy game I went to as far as men's basketball, and that's the only game I saw in person this year. So to have to the basketball team. You talk to some people here and there about what's happened. Didn't really get too many concrete details about how it went, but to say that, I think they said in the press release that it was a mutual breakup, so to speak, between
Yeah, that's right.
Allen
That's
and
right.
Buddy. Ready? That can't be true because I know for a fact Jimmy Allen wanted to come back and coach this team. Jimmy, I know for a fact that he wanted to coach at West Point still. So to have it be a mutual decision and stuff like that, I think just came down to the point and said that we want to go in a different direction. That's what it probably was like. We want to go in a different direction. Whether or not that was driven by players wanting a different coach or something like that, we don't know that. But the fact that these two freshmen come, on Friday they announced Benson and Roberts announced that they're heading into the transfer portal, right? And Benson has nothing but positive things to say about Jimmy Roberts and the staff, right? He says that it was called by kind of insinuates that it was by surprise that this has happened, that this coaching change happened. That doesn't seem like a team uproar to me. That doesn't seem like a team uproar saying, "Hey, let's get rid of the coach. Let's start anew." That's just me, reporter brain going off. And same with Roberts. Roberts said thanks for Allen and the staff for taking a chance on him, giving them the opportunity to play at West Point. So I mean, I don't know if those two guys, man. When I wrote the story on Wednesday, I'm like the next Cardshed Army is going to get a pretty talented team coming back, and now with those two guys back, gone, well, in the transfer portal, we'll see what happens. Yeah, those are kind of were my thoughts, and what direction do they head in now? I mean, I hear this from a ton of people, Brendan. Army men's basketball might be the toughest job in Division One. It's up there with one of the toughest jobs in Division One. And granted, they have never made a Patriot League championship game, right? They've never won a Patriot League title. They've never been to the NCAA tournament. I think they're one of a handful of teams that have been playing basketball for 75 plus years on the Division One level and haven't made it to the NCAA tournament yet. They did finish in the top. They do finish in the top four under Jimmy Allen. He does have two of the four winning seasons since they joined the Patriot League are Jimmy Allen's.
Yeah, that
98
sounds about
career
right.
win.
Yeah.
Yeah, 98 career wins for Jimmy Allen, fourth all time in Army history. And you have Bobby Knight and Zach Spiker are the two of the three guys ahead of him. Another gentleman that's escaping my name that coached in the 20s is the leader at 126, or something like that. So I mean, the program was, I guess it's just not specifically not winning the league. And quite honestly, dude, have you seen Colgate play this year?
No, but I do know that I mean this year and last year and probably the previous 2 years before that, they've far and away been the best in the Patriot League.
Oh, they're legit. I mean, they have one of their top forwards out injured for the year, and they're still legit. They won the Patriot League again. They're a 15 seed in the tournament coming up, and maybe arguably could be higher. I mean, they could be a 14 seed, 13. Who knows? They're a really good team, and they're gonna give. I think they might be playing Kansas. I could be. They're playing Texas in the first round. They're playing Texas in the first round. I did my bracket tonight. I picked Colgate to beat Texas. Maybe it's my Patriot League, biased and stuff like that, but I have them in an upset over Texas. We'll see what happens. But that's a very talented team. That Army lost by 2-2 at West Point, I believe 7-2 at Colgate, and then in the semifinals, there was a little bit of a runaway victory, a 17-point victory by Colgate. But that's a really good team, right? And so Army could be at their very best in a year. And still, it's going to take a pretty strong effort to win that Patriot League tournament. that especially you got to win what
Yeah.
you're winning 3 games in about a week, right? I mean, it's it's not easy. So I mean, I don't know. I mean, where they go for what are the expectations of this program? Are if the expectations are to win a Patriot League title, then I guess you go in a different direction, I guess, after 7 years, you know? I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know what you
Well,
think.
so there's I mean, and again, I mean, we really we really don't have a sense of why this move happened, but there's a lot of circumstance that leads me to believe that this was not an emotional decision. It's kind of seems like maybe um this was a decision from higher up that they've had in mind for a while, and they just let the season play out because there was no reason not to. I mean, as you've said, I mean, Colgate's a supremely talented and senior laden team, especially within the Patriot League. Navy was a very senior laden team, and they won't be going into next season. So that's and then the fact that uh, you, I guess for those who don't know, Jimmy Allen. Well, let's start. So in 2009, Zach Spiker was hired as the head coach, and I remember at the time there was a lot. The feeling was like, oh, like maybe he's the one who will make the jump because he was a hot young coaching prospect, which certainly like I don't think West Point had seen if ever. I mean, certainly not since like the days of Krzyzewski. And Jimmy Allen was not an assistant from day one, but I think he was hired maybe in Spiker's second or third season. So really, I don't think it's unfair to look at this as kind of like a 14-year window as opposed to just a 7-year window
Mm,
because
yeah.
they in all likelihood they kept Allen as head coach to keep some continuity um, with the Spiker program. So it's been 14 years, and in that time they were like 100 and 130 overall record, and they had a couple of chances in the Patriot League tournament where Army, they had finished fourth and a number 9 seed. So a team that had to play in to the Patriot League tournament then upset the number 1 seed, and so Army hosted a semifinal against a 9 seed, and one of those was against Holy Cross in Spiker's last season, and that was like a kind of an embarrassing loss. I think they lost by like 30 points at home, and then the other was more recently during Allen's tenure. So I think we can definitely say they haven't made the most of the few opportunities they've had. Now, kind of on a more basic level, is Army winning a Patriot League title even a realistic goal? I don't know. Um, Maybe that's an impossible dream, but I do know that Air Force has gone to the tournament multiple times in my life. I do know that Navy's gone to the tournament multiple times in my life. So, I mean, we didn't, there were a lot of people who thought that Army winning 10 games in the 21st century wasn't possible, when it's happened. And I know a lot of people out there will chafe at me comparing football and basketball. I'm not saying they're the same job. I'm just, it's like these are the only comparisons I really have. Um, and I think you're probably right. I think it probably is the toughest job in Division One. But at the same time, just because the program was in a real bad state in the 90s and 2000s, and now it's in a better state where it's a little closer to 500, but still not really overall. It's like I don't think it's crazy to think that maybe somebody else can come in and maybe finally break the curse for lack of a better term. But
Yeah.
I only have one thought as to who maybe that is. I don't know, we could get to that in a little bit, but
Yeah, we'll talk
um,
about it. Yeah.
yeah,
I was looking up I was doing some research yesterday, and you hear that maybe Coach K might be involved in this search committee, so to speak. And why wouldn't you ask him for help? One of the a legendary coach, arguably one of the best college basketball coaches ever. Why wouldn't you ask his input? And, I try to come up with names. I type in, Coach K coaching tree basically in a Google search. And I see this article and I'm running through the coaches and I'm saying, okay, who we got here? Who's maybe an assistant somewhere or who's maybe at maybe a, a mid-major program that might want to make the jump to Army. And I didn't really come up with many names, to be honest with you. I came up with, and granted, I have no I have talked to nobody about the coaching search. Zero people about the coaching search. But a guy's name that came up was Tim O'Toole. He's an assistant at Pittsburgh right now. He's a veteran coach. A guy who I believe he coached in the Big East, and I mean he's a guy who came up. I came up with Nate James, former Duke basketball player who was at Austin P, but I think he last recently was there for 2 years as the head coach and was let go. The one name that really pops into my head, but I think I don't think he has any desire to coach. Or I don't know if he has any desire to coach. I don't think I've had one conversation with Chris Spatola. Chris Spatola is a name that I would come up with. He does Sirius XM ACC's on the ACC channel on Sirius XM. He does a lot of media stuff. He's now like a TV radio type of guy, former Army guard, right? I believe he's married to one of Coach K's daughters. I believe he was a Duke assistant. He worked in the Duke program. Once he got out of the Army, maybe in recruiting first, and then as an assistant coach, I think later. But I think Chris Spatola is probably right now pretty happy doing what he's doing. And those would be the three names that I come up with. And they're like out of the blue sky, not talking to, don't have Coach K on speed dial or Mike Buddy and just thinking of tossing it out there. Did you had somebody in mind or?
Yeah. So just on a whim, I looked up who's had recent success at the Division II level, and it brought up something interesting because we've talked a lot this football offseason about Drew Thatcher and coming from Nebraska Kearney in the MIAA conference in Division II, and it's actually the same conference where this gentleman is coaching at Ben McCullum, who let me get this right, who's the head coach at Northwest Missouri State. He has won 4 Division II championships since 2016-17 and might win another one this year, and is absolutely getting other D1 consideration from other places. So yeah, that would be my one name that I would throw out there. He's in his early 40s, so he's not young, but he's not old either. And it's certainly it would be pretty wild for Army to poach 2 pretty important hires out of that conference in a year. But yeah, I mean, there's just a lot we don't know here, and that's I don't know. It's frightening, but also exciting.
Yeah, when I was like, I hit up a couple people and I'm like, have you heard anything about any candidates at all? Nobody, like I said, nobody too close to the program. And they're like, no. I mean, it's the toughest job it's a tough job. And, do you have to get somebody like when Spiker came in, a younger guy like when Spiker came in, and maybe that throw some energy into throw some energy into the program? Um, I don't know. So we're gonna have to see what's out there. You know what? I'm thinking. I didn't get a chance to look this up either, but Mike Buddy coming from Wake Forest. Is there anybody that was an assistant that way back in the day on Wake Forest staff that he might have still a close connection with? Maybe that's a possibility. I don't know. I don't think I saw a tweet from. It might be like it was it's a Twitter account that covers mid majors maybe or even covers college basketball, and you know the tweet was something like, "Oh, they have Coach K on the selection committee. They're going to shoot for like the stars, shoot for as high as they can go here." And I just don't know. I just don't know where that is, to be honest with you, because you look at like in the past, they before Spiker, right? Um, it was Jim Cruz, there. It was Pat Harris who played under Coach K. He was there. Um, Dino Gaudio was there for a very short time, and I just you know, like you said, so Spiker comes in 2009, right? We're in 2023 now, 14 years. You've only had two coaches at Army, so there's been some stability. So you think that they're going to hopefully find somebody that is there for the longer haul, right? And we'll see what happens. It'll be interesting to follow. And I don't know. It's like you think that something will happen sooner than later because once March Madness hits in the Final Four, and all the coaches get together down there, and I'm sure there's interviews for other openings down there, Division One programs and candidates. So I'm sure that we'll hear by the time the tournament's over. I think Army will definitely have a new basketball coach. So
Yeah, I get the feeling we won't have to wait probably even a month before an announcement is made. But I mean, I think despite all the uncertainty, to his credit, Mike Buddy has a pretty good track record in a pretty short amount of time of new hires, including Michelle Tomolo, who's the women's lacrosse head coach. So, um, I'm sure I'm sure he has people guiding him as well. But at the same time, he seems to have a knack for it so far. So. Yeah, I mean, we can argue whether it was time to make a change or not. I really I do not claim to have the expertise to know either way, but it's happening, and I certainly hope it works out for the best.
yeah, another hire, Missy Traverse's worked pretty well with the women's basketball program. Just
Yeah,
watching them play Navy and seeing her in a press conference setting. I mean, she's doing a really good job with that program also. And Reese Erickson was the Patriot League Rookie of the Year this year for the women's basketball. So that's another um, uh, g- good hire there. Brian Plotkin also. I think that was on Buddy's time. The men's soccer coach is another guy too that's done pretty good with the program, the men's
yeah,
soccer
I think
program.
you're right.
Yeah. Yeah, and wanted to give a shout out to Zach McGraw, former Army center back for the Portland Timbers. Scored his first goal of the season last night on the header versus St. Louis City FC, expansion MLS team. But congratulations to Zach McGraw. Want to give him a shout out tonight. A real quick back on the Jimmy Allen situation. We'll put a wrap to this. From all I can't say I had a lot of interaction with Jimmy Allen. Had some when I was at the newspaper and here and there after I left. But for all everybody you talk to, Jimmy's a great guy. Had Joe Aberisi on the podcast last month talking about the lacrosse program, but he talked about the coaching fraternity at Army and how strong it is and how like Brian Riley hockey coach is his neighbor, and he mentioned guys like Jimmy Allen and stuff about how they really, but I mean, they're good fits for the academy. They got people that really love the academy, love the mission that the academy's on, and wish Jimmy all the best. And we'll see where he lands. I mean, I don't think we've seen the last of Jimmy Allen on the sidelines on a basketball court, and hope he lands on his feet. The other thing I want to talk about, and maybe I'm overstepping here, but there was a Twitter, I guess I can call it a battle. I don't know. I don't know if you saw this with John Feinstein and Captain Cons Connor Crehan on Twitter
Oh
about the
no,
whole. Yeah, it was a little bit of.
I know nothing about this. So please continue.
Yeah, it was just a little bit of back and forth with Feinstein saying that it wasn't a good decision by Buddy, and he had some choice words for Buddy. And Connor came to the defense of Buddy and said all his times he's interacted with Buddy, he's been nothing but professional and taking them because Connor has, I guess, a little bit of a role with the football program, and sometimes we'll go up there and talk to the football program occasionally. He said he has nothing but good things to say about Buddy, where Feinstein didn't have those things to say about Buddy. And Feinstein is a guy who's been around Patriot League basketball and college athletics forever. He knows the Patriot League inside out. He knows college basketball inside out. So I didn't think I was gonna see that. I think Wednesday or Thursday this week. That was a little bit of surprise on social media, and I'm like, I'm just gonna stay out of this one. I'm just gonna stay out of this one and see. Eventually it did end, but yeah. So you have the sides saying, like we talked about from the start, you have the sides that say, hey, maybe it was time for a change. You have the sides that say, um, what are they doing here? Jimmy Allen deserved another year. We'll see what happens in the next couple weeks and see who Army hires. Just wanted to let you guys know. I started a March Madness bracket challenge for Black Knight Nation on ESPN.com. If you check my Twitter account, the link's on there. I'll be retweeting that a lot and quote tweeting that a lot just to see. We like to get a nice group there to join us in March Madness. Quite honestly, Brendan, I haven't really followed college basketball as much as I used to. That used to be one of my favorite sports to follow, but I'm an Oklahoma fan. And times are tough in Oklahoma basketball land right now. So I only really watch Oklahoma games and Army games, so to speak, but I was able to watch a little bit of the tournaments the last couple days, and I got my bracket already done. I got Arizona winning it all, so we'll see how that pans out. But please, guys, check out my Twitter account at Sal Interdonato, and you can join in our bracket challenge. We've had a couple people sign up already, and hope to get a nice group there. Good interaction, and I think we have some old school Black Knight Nation T-shirts still hanging around. So I would love to give out one of those to the winner. I know a couple years back we wanted to do that. We had about say 20 25 people in the tournament challenge, and I couldn't get in contact with the winner of the tournament. So I think we have a couple Black Knight Nation T-shirts laying around. Maybe we'll start some more like T-shirts, hats down the road. Who knows? We'll see how that goes. But just wanted to get that out there. Is there anything else Army sports related that we can talk about, Brendan? While we're here, I mean, you haven't been on in a while. Just see if anything else is on your mind with what's going on in Black Knight Nation.
And not a whole lot. I mean, I'm not surprised the women's lacrosse team is having the success it's having. I'm a little surprised that the men's team reloaded seemingly very quickly. But I think that kind of speaks to the good state that program is in, where they just keep rotating guys in and getting them experience. And it seems like every year it pays off, and every year they're in the conversation for, certainly at least an NCAA tournament berth. I know from the coaches, from the program's perspective, like they ultimately want to win a national title. That would be amazing to see. I don't know if it'll happen this year, but I think they're 5-1 now, won 5 in a row.
They have.
Did not expect that. And certainly some big matches coming up, including a non-conference game against Cornell. I think that'll be at Michie Stadium on April 15th. So we're just really looking forward to the rest of lacrosse season.
Yeah, we've had Seth Mendelson keep an eye on the team. He's gonna go to the league. They're playing at Lehigh this Saturday coming up, and he's gonna go to the game and cover the game. So I mean, he's pumped up. They're 5-1, right? And they have guys who have been. They were like that second level scorers for them, like Jake Morin and Reese Burke. Those guys are stepping up. And this freshman Joe Aberisi really loves his freshman class. And Evan Plunkett has had a great start to his freshman season. He's a guy who Army recruited to play football. and he's out there on the lacrosse field for Joe Aberisi, and he's starting. He's one of the top scorers on their team, and definitely a guy to look out for if you're following the Army lacrosse team. And we got to give credit to the goalie, Knox Dent. Knox Dent is a senior who hadn't really got much playing time entering this season, and that defense is holding teams into single digits. I think the last I know they've held teams in the single digit. I think 4 of the 5 wins, maybe all 5 wins. I'm not sure. So that's been really key to defense. And John Sullivan, I believe, is a freshman defender that's getting a lot of playing time for the Black Knights too. So yeah, just something to follow. Football. So real quick, let's talk some football. That's what we usually do on this podcast. Pro Day is the 16th. So Pro Day for Army is coming up on Thursday the 16th. We hope to have Seth Mendelson there covering Pro Day if it's permitted. So Andre Carter is going to be there, right? He was at the NFL Combine. Of course, Andre Carter is going to be there. I found out Marquel Broughton is going to be participate in Pro Day. Brahim Murphy is going to participate in Pro Day, and Maurice Ballon is also going to participate in Pro Day. Now there may be a couple other seniors out there that I don't know about, but those are the 4 that I can confirm that are going to participate in Pro Day on Thursday. So that's always fun to see how many NFL scouts will be up there, right? Because Brendan, I covered the Pro Day when Brett Toth was going through the process, right? And Brett Toth, if things were a little clearer in the policy, which now they're starting to get cloudy again, right? The policy's starting to get cloudy again.
Yeah.
And things were a little bit clearer, Brett Toth probably would have been drafted his senior year. He probably would have been a 6th or 7th round draft pick, probably, maybe even higher. Who knows? But there were a lot of, there were like, trying to think, scouts from like I think double digit teams there at the Pro Day, which was I remember seeing scouts from the Seahawks, the local Jets and Giants, the Falcons, and I think even the Chiefs that day, going back 5 years ago. And now Andre Carter, right? He's had every NFL team show up with a scout at Army practices during his senior year. He goes to the combine. He did not run the 40, right? He did not run the 40. He did the bench. He did the vertical. I think he did a couple other things, and we'll see if he runs on Pro Day. I know Brahim Murphy and Maurice Ballon are going to run on Pro Day, right? And Marquel Broughton will probably run on Pro Day too. So it'll just be fun to see what happens because Carter started out as a 1st round pick in the preseason, right? He starts out as a 1st round pick at the preseason. Now I see one mock draft that had him in the 70s to be picked in the 70s. That's 3rd round, which is pretty nothing to shake at. The Army hasn't had a draft pick since Caleb Campbell in 2008, right? So we'll see. Maybe a good Pro Day raises his stock back up. You don't know. Be interesting to follow that.
Obviously Carter has gotten the most publicity, but I don't know if this player will get drafted, but I think Broughton is going to be an absolute steal for some pro team out there. Just with like the leadership stories that we know about, let alone the ones we don't know about.
Yeah.
I can't imagine any NFL team being like, yeah, no, we're going to pass on this guy. At the very least, you bring him into camp and see what he can do athletically. But it just we know he studies hard. We know he can be a coach on the sideline if need be. So as kind of shiny and exciting as it is to see the kind of the spectacle around Andre Carter, I am very curious to see if anybody takes a flyer on Broughton, because I think they're going to get great value there.
It's a great point. I was saying when you have these senior all-star games, right? College senior all-star games, I'm really shocked that he didn't get an invitation. Like the East-West Shrine game, I don't know, maybe it wasn't going to fit his schedule. I don't know, because he's busy with, he's involved in the cadet, leadership as a, so maybe, he's a regimental commander. He's one of the top in the chain of cadets at West Point. I don't know if that had anything to do with it, but man, how do you not give this guy a chance to show what he can do in like a senior all-star game? I didn't really get that at all. I thought he definitely deserved it 100%. And we'll see. He's a guy that you definitely, if he doesn't get drafted, you definitely undraft undrafted free agent, give him a chance at a rookie camp, and no doubt you look at so the he won the most inspirational award on the team for I think the second or third straight year at the Army Football Banquet, right? It's the Anthony Miller Award, and we'll have more on those awards once they finish announcing all of them. We'll put together a story on that for BlackKnightNation.com. But I mean, it's more than that too. The dude can play. He's an inspiration. He's a leader. He can play. I mean, he's gonna elevate the play of people in your locker room. It's just as simple as that. I mean, he's going to elevate the character in your locker room. He's going to elevate the play in your locker room. I think that give him a chance. Give him a chance. And you know what? I think Brahim Murphy is a guy that can be a little under the radar too. Brahim Murphy is a guy when he got the ball in his hands and made some pretty big plays for Army. You know, he's got some big play capabilities. Now, is he a 4.4 speed guy? I don't know that. Maybe not, but I think that he's the guy that might get a chance too, just to see what he can do. And Maurice Ballon is a guy who went from quarterback to slot back, and those guys. I know those guys are working really hard for this pro day, and we'll see what they can do. I'm not sure anybody else. Like I look at like a Connor Bishop, I'm not sure that he's those usually the offensive lineman and the defensive lineman on the Army, unless they're really elite, like a Carter or like a Brett Toth who have scouts all over them and stuff like that. Those guys want to get back to like what their normal weight is, and get their like look at a John Voight, right? A John Voight, I thought definitely could at least give the NFL a chance, right? He wanted to go right into the military. I think Connor Bishop is a guy like that. Who knows? Maybe he does like a an athletic internship position, this season coming up, and we'll see what happens. A couple more things. Army spring practice is right around the corner, 10 days away. The 22nd, the Black Knights will take the field, and we'll see what happens. Like as far as because we got this new shotgun offense coming in with Drew Thatcher, and if practices are going to be open or not, and what you're going to see, what you're not going to be able, what they're going to go into the Foley Athletic Center and work on. Who knows? And maybe close the doors, and we'll see what happens there. And it's like couple there's coaching staff news, right? They brought back Danny Verpaley as safeties coach. Danny worked with tight ends when Monken's first couple years as a quality control coach. He went down to Kennesaw State, was a defensive coordinator at Kennesaw State, and now is back with Army as safeties coach. Courtney Braswell moved on. Courtney Braswell moved from Army to Cincinnati, inside linebackers coach. Courtney spent a couple years at West Point, and anybody that you talk to about Courtney as far as the players and the coaches loved the guy, great attitude, and had some really, you Brendan, you look at this year, the inside linebackers for Army, right? It was Leo Lowen and a little bit of a shuffle with Leo Lowen, right? And I think that Courtney Braswell did a great job of like getting as many guys possible prepared to start this season. And so that's a miss. But you look at like when the team is got a good reputation for assistants. I was trying to put together a coaching tree. I have a tweet, the Jeff Monken coaching tree, right? And just the defensive guys, Brendan. Like so, Chad Wilt, who used to coach the defensive line, he's a defensive coordinator at Indiana now, right? We know Jay Bateman went to North Carolina, was the defensive coordinator. He's the linebackers coach at Florida now. We know Sheil Wood was the safeties coach at Army. He was Troy's defensive coordinator last year. Now he's at Tulane.
That's who I was trying to think of. Yes.
Yeah. Now he's at Tulane. Tulane was what, a top 15 program last year, right? I mean, they went to the New Year's Six Bowl. There's Scott Sloan left Army as safeties coach. He's now the Appalachian State defensive coordinator. I could probably go on and on. I actually made a list. I want to be real quick and check my drafts. I didn't post it anywhere yet because I was still building on it, but I was running out of Twitter characters because there were so many guys. Oh yeah, here we go. Let's see anybody else. Okay, Greg Gasparotto. He was a safeties coach only, I think, for a year at Army. He went to Louisville. Now he's the defensive coordinator at Troy, taking Shield Wood's place. Yeah. Javon DeWitt. I don't know if you remember Javon DeWitt. He was outside linebackers coach and special teams coach early in Jeff Monken's tenure. He went to Nebraska. He went actually North Carolina first, then Nebraska. He's now the defensive coordinator at Florida International. So and John Christian Young, who was a defensive backs coach for Army, he is the corners. I have him as a DC. He's a corners coach, I believe, at Tulane now too. So I mean, guys, I mean that's like you can come up with like 10 guys in Monken's just on the defensive side of the ball that are now coaching at a pretty high level. And so Courtney Braswell moves on. We wish him the best. And man, I'm behind in my coaching staff news. I don't think they have a replacement yet for Braz. I don't think they've announced a replacement yet for Braswell. I could be wrong. Man, it's been a long weekend. That's all.
Yeah, I mean, I know. Yeah, it seems like every few weeks there's like another announcement of a couple more, like, just filling in the rest of the staff. But I don't know. I don't think there's too many more positions that they need to fill, if any.
But you think like it's right around the corner, right? So what am I thinking? It's right around the corner. The spring practice is 10 days out. You got to think that there's people set in the positions if there are any available. I'm looking it up real quick. Man, I tell you, it's been a fun weekend. So I'm just trying to see what we got here real quick, and then we'll wrap this up. I don't think so. No, technically they haven't officially hired a replacement for him yet. Well, actually, yes, they have. I can't believe I can't believe I didn't remember this. It's totally on me. They hired the Army Prep. They have hired the Army Prep head coach as the
Okay, yeah,
Coach Juice. Coach
yeah.
Juice they have as the inside linebackers coach. Guys, I apologize. Like I said, no excuses. I wrote the story. I should remember the story, right? Yeah, they hired him. I don't they officially. I don't know if they haven't officially announced it, but I mean he's out there on recruiting. Justin Weaver. Coach Juice, Weaver is now. So now who will coach the Army Prep team? I'm not sure that's been announced yet. We'll see. Yeah, we'll see. We'll see who steps up and coaches the Army Prep team this fall. And I know Chris Nicholas is working with the Army Prep guys. I don't know if you check out Chris Nicholas's Twitter account. He's got them hitting the weight room, and some of the things that they're doing over there at Army Prep to prepare these guys to play for the big squad is pretty impressive. So you think the Jeff Monken videos, the hype videos in for the big team are good. These are just as good. So check that out. I think we could wrap it up. Sorry, I was babbling along there. I knew they had somebody in place, and I just like it's Sunday night. That's my excuse. Sunday night. There's people watching us now, Brendan, that are not watching the Oscars right now. So there's people that are taking their important time and not watching. And it's March Madness Selection Sunday, so we appreciate everybody watching us.
You know what?
I hope I have a couple more. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, so I mean, this is a total aside because this is an Army sports show, but I just want to. I haven't said this on like a really public forum, but I mean, like I'm a huge movie guy. I see movies all the time. I see a lot of classic movies in theaters and drive-in theaters and all that stuff. And I stopped caring about the Oscars. I think it was 2015. Michael Keaton was up for Best Actor for Birdman, and then they announced Eddie Redmayne, and you literally saw Keaton like put his speech back in his pocket, and I was just like, I'm done with this. So just wanted to vent a little bit.
Yeah, you know what? To be honest, like my wife is usually like watches the red carpet for that stuff. No interest in it this year. Yeah, no interest in it. I think there was NCIS reruns going on somewhere in the background today. So I mean, they're just. I don't really have too much of interest. I'm more of an indie movie guy, to be honest with you. So and any movies I'm going to see in the theater are basically with a 10-year-old daughter are like of a little bit of a children related. So I'm not really
Yeah.
seeing too much of the critically acclaimed movies. I wait for them to come on the streaming services, and I saw one, but it wasn't. I saw one recently, but it wasn't the greatest thing in the world. So I'm not going to give it a grade. But back in the day, Brendan, I used to. I don't know about you, right? I talk about this on my third shift job sometimes because it's a long night. You got to keep awake and stuff like that. And IMDb, I used to, and even Yahoo had where you could rank your movies, right? You could give rankings to your movies, and yeah, you could rate your movies, right? You can go on IMDb still or Rotten Tomatoes and still rank movies and stuff like that. But I used to have a solid like list of like 50 of my top movies of all time. But this is going back like say 2000s, right? This is going back like 15, 20 years ago. And now I'm like, man, I'm not sure if I can add any movies from the last 5 years into that list. I'm not sure. I mean, I've seen some decent ones, but real quick, what's your number one movie of all time? I'm putting you on the spot.
Okay, so I have two answers. Kind of my quick and dirty answer is Jaws, because I do think in a lot of ways that is the greatest movie of all time. I would say the movie the movie I think is really great and I find the most rewatchable is actually MASH, not the TV show, the movie. The movie came
Yeah, yeah,
first,
yeah.
with Donald Sutherland and Elliot Gould and a bunch of other people. Ironically, because the movie itself is kind of episodic, and so it makes it easy to rewatch. But yeah, those are my two answers.
I would not be a good movie critic, right? Because well, my favorite movie of all time is Groundhog Day. That's my favorite movie of all time, and some people might love it. Some people might not like it. I'm a big Bill Murray fan, and not even like Stripes Bill Murray, but more like Lost in Translation Bill Murray, like that kind of era, more like that. And I'm more of a New Jersey based kind of movie guy. So I like Garden State. Garden State's one of my favorite movies of all time. Um Station Agent, if you ever saw the Station Agent, I don't know if
Oh yeah, yeah, I've seen that one.
that is one of my favorite movies of all time because I drove through where that was filmed like million times, and I just say, okay, I know this spot, know this spot, know this spot, just like that kind of things. I'm a big Wes Anderson guy, so Rushmore is one of my top 10 movies of all time. Judge me, judge me. I
I
mean,
Yeah, I would say Wes. I mean, uh in terms of like modern, like quote modern directors, because Spielberg is still out there doing good stuff, but he's kind of a legacy at this point. Same with Scorsese. Like I consider those guys like legacy directors. But yeah, if a Wes Anderson movie is coming out, I'm gonna go see it. If a Tarantino movie is coming out, I'm gonna go see it.
yeah, yeah, no doubt. And I don't know, is Jordan Peele's kind of up there now with making movies and stuff like that, but the one that he had that was the first one. Why is it escaping me? I should know it off the top of my head, and I just didn't.
Oh, Get Out.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I watched like I felt 45 minutes of it, and maybe it's just me, maybe it's just my attention span. I don't know, but I didn't really couldn't get into
I'm
that one. So
so I mean, we are so far afield here, but my opinion on
it's fine.
Jordan Peele, I think he's a great idea guy. I think the concepts for his movies are really interesting. I don't think he's great at executing those ideas, but yeah, like none of his movies have really hit for me. But I do find the ideas interesting.
Yeah, if I went on the record of what my favorite movie was before Groundhog Day came out, I think I lose all my credibility whatsoever. The little that I have here, on the Black Knight Nation podcast. So, um, it was The Adventures of Ford Fairlane. I'll just say it. It was The Adventures of Ford Fairlane. That was like one of my favorite movies of all time. I was a big Andrew Dice Clay fan back in the day, and I mean, I could watch that movie on that. that and shoot, what was the one movie with Christian Slater in it and Brad Pitt and
Oh, True
like a
Romance.
late night. Yes, yes,
Yeah,
yes, yes. Yeah, see that those are like they don't make those movies anymore. They don't really make those type of movies anymore. So that's our Oscar talk for tonight. That was pretty good. That's a pretty good segment. I think it's Brendan. I think it's good to balance stuff out. You always have to talk about seriously break down the Army sports. 24/7 on this podcast, and hoping maybe we could maybe get some different guests on there. Guests on here too. That's not always like football, yeah, sports centric, so to speak, that are maybe doing some things outside of, you know, their playing days or their serving days. I know there used to be a wide receiver that used to be like a DJ to a point. I wrote about him. His name was Jared McFarland. He didn't play for that long on the football team. He might have played his freshman and sophomore year a little bit. He was from Monroe Woodbury. He graduated from Monroe Woodbury, local to West Point, about 15 minutes outside of West Point, and he was a DJ and he had Spotify and everything. I wrote a story about him. Can't remember what his name was. It's escaping me now. I wonder what he's doing now because he's going touring and stuff like that too. So if I
wow.
can locate Jared McFarland and he's doing something, we'll get him on the podcast. Just different stuff, I mean, just pop culture
It's
stuff hit here and there.
especially this football spring. I'll be very surprised if they make anything public. I'll be surprised if they invite
Yeah.
people to the spring game.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on. I trying to see what's going on there. Haven't been able to get an answer with that yet, but we'll see. I mean, I don't think I'll be going there because I have some Saturdays where I can go to like the scrimmages and stuff like that open, and like we have Seth Mendelson and Lynn Fern, who's done a great job with us. Check out Lynn's photos. She did a great job for Army Navy wrestling. She did a great job when Army played Boston University in the Patriot League quarterfinal game. She was there for us. So Lynn's been really great for us. Check out her work. I think on Instagram it's Lynn Fern Photography. Excellent and just very passionate about Black Knight Nation, and we really appreciate that. So yeah, we'll see. I mean, I don't know if we'll be able to even get a photographer in there. We'll see. I have no idea what's going on. It'd be interesting because I have some my mind is like burning here with like some thoughts about what's going to happen to the offense. And like, I was thinking today, for some reason, I was thinking about how the tight end is going to be used in this offense. Don't ask me why, Brendan. It's a Sunday in early March, and I'm thinking, okay, Josh Lingenfelter's pretty darn good, right? As far as a blocker, and when he gets his hands on the ball, how does he fit into this offense? And how does a guy like David Crossan, who was a younger tight end, is he going to still be a tight end? Is he going to move back to the line? Who knows? They have some young players that you want to take a look at this spring, and I think that I'm going to stick with it right now. I think Markel Johnson is going to be a big player in this offense coming up this fall. And I think the guys who are slot backs now, who might be slot receivers or running backs, like Ijon Marshall. And I heard that Tyrell Robinson's doing good in his recovery. So maybe Tyrell Robinson could be back for the start of the season. That would be great. Who knows if he lines up? I have a feeling he's going to line up in the backfield. I have a feeling. You give him the
Ooh.
ball, spread out, give him some space to run in. I have a feeling that he'd be in the backfield with whoever the quarterback is, or be Bryson Daly or whoever else steps up in the spring. Just one quick note, and then I promise we're going to get out of here. I promise. So there was a schedule. There's a schedule change to the 2023 Army football schedule where week 3 at Texas San Antonio has been moved to Friday game. So I mean, we can only deduct it. It's going to be a Friday night game. So Friday night game. I think Army goes at Louisiana Monroe, home against Morgan State, then play UTSA on a Friday night. So you say, okay, short preparation, but with all due respect, you're playing Morgan State in week 2, right? And then you have, I guess that gives you say, oh, great, that's gonna really mess things up. But then they're going to have an extra day to prepare against Syracuse in the next game. So I mean, you could look at it both ways. You could look at you're going to play Friday Night Lights in Texas. I tweeted out there. And UTSA, Frank Harris slinging the ball still in year 7, right? So and we know that they were pretty good last year, and that program's in pretty good shape, and that's going to be Army's first real strong test of the season. And to do it on a Friday night, we'll see what they're made of.
Yeah, it's definitely a schedule not without some
Seeing if you had any thoughts,
challenges.
Yeah, I mean, we might as well figure out what this offense is all about early, right? And they'll see how much they can score and stuff like that. But thanks a lot, guys. Brendan, thanks a lot for again, man. It's good talking some Army sports. Maybe we just do some topical stuff to keep us busy in the spring. If you have any ideas, please let me know. We'll do more of these kind of Sunday podcasts, and just man, I wish we could have interaction with the Black Knight Nation, hopefully down the road with these podcasts. And we really appreciate your time. Check out our website, blackknightnation.com. Have some stories up there. Lacrosse stories are up there. New coaching stories are up there. Basketball news is up there. Check out our Instagram, Black Knight Nation. Check out our Black Knight Nation Twitter account is closing in on 5,000 followers. Check out that. Hopefully we get there really soon. And our YouTube channel, you guys are watching on YouTube, we watch on YouTube. Give this video a like. That will give more people will see Brendan and I talk about like our favorite movies and the like. And subscribe to our YouTube channel. If we can get up to 1,000 subscribers for YouTube, that would be great. So Brendan, thanks a lot, and we'll be back soon on the Black Knight Nation podcast.
Always fun, Sal. Thanks for having me.